Okay, class, welcome to Maya Lab 1. This is where you can set your default project workspace. For our class, we want to be saving to our H drive, so we're going to hit Set Project right here. I'm going to go to My Computer, click into your H drive. You should see it pop up right here for you. And then create a folder for our class called 3D Graphics. You can create a new folder if you right-click. Say New Folder. Let's call it 3D Graphics. Perfect. And then inside of that folder, we're going to create a folder called Autodesk. And then Autodesk, and then Projects. And then this is where we want to go ahead and set our default folder. And then you'll get this little pop-up the first time you make this. It says, does not contain a project definition file. So go ahead and hit Create Default Workspace. Okay, and that way every time you save a project, it'll save to that, it should be H for you guys, H drive, 3D Graphics, Autodesk, Projects, right? That's where we want to save things. All right, so go ahead and make sure you have your correct one selected. And then let's hit New. Okay, for this first scene, we are going, you should have already taken a look at how to navigate around the workspace. Now we're going to talk about creating basic primitives. So those are these polymodeling shapes. And then we're also going to talk about how to move, rotate, and scale those shapes. So to start out, let's go ahead and just bring in a cube. So if you want to bring in an object into your scene, you can go ahead and click any of these buttons right up here. These are some of the basic shapes that you can bring into your scene. So let's create a polygon cube. For modeling, we want to be in this modeling standard workspace in Maya. So up here at the top, you can use the drop down and click on modeling standard. And then over here on the left hand side, we also want this to say modeling. Perfect. If you ever have an issue where your workspace looks wrong or where you lose some of these tools, you can come up here to modeling standard and go down to reset current workspace, and that should fix a lot of those issues. And additionally, you can also come over here to to our window. And then this is where we can bring back in some of these workspace editors. So we don't have our channel box layer editor. You can click on that. It'll just pop up for you, and you can just go ahead and drag that in if you want that as well. So if you ever lose any of these workspaces, that is an easy way to get those back. But we're going to be taking a look at the attribute editor today. Okay. So go ahead and bring in the cube. Right over here on the left hand side is the outliner. So if you click on that, open it up, you can see what's in your scene. This is a nice way to quickly jump to objects in your scene. So we're going to start with moving this object. So if you hit hotkey W, that's the move tool, or right here on the left hand side you have move. That lets you change the position of your object in your scene. Okay, if you click on the arrows, that allows you to move in a particular direction. And if you click in the middle, then you can move in all of the directions at once. Okay, so let's go ahead and move this cube over to the side. That looks good. Okay, next I want to bring in a sphere. Okay, so again, in my outliner, I can see that now I have a sphere as well. This time, we are going to scale this object. Okay, so I'm going to move it around a little bit as well, moving this over here, and then let's go ahead and just change the scaling. So the hotkey for scaling is hotkey R. Okay, it's also here on the left hand side where all of your tools are. And again, if you grab from the center, it'll scale in every single direction at once. If you grab from just one of these cube directions, it'll just scale in that direction. I did Control Z right there to undo. And if you grab, again, This direction will pull it this direction. This top one will pull it up and down, right? We're changing that scaling. If you grab one of these boxes, then it'll scale in those two directions at the same time. You can see everything that's highlighted in yellow right now. Those are the directions that I'm scaling in, but it's not scaling in this direction right here. And as you can see in the bottom left of your screen, you have this little Y, Z, and X, okay? And my widget, right, which is this scale tool, as you can see, the colors line up in the same direction. So when I refer to like scaling in the Z direction, you can take a look down here, and that's what I'm talking about, right? That's that blue box, right, would be the Z direction in this case. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and scale this, kind of just make it look sort of funky. I'm happy with that. Okay, that looks good. All right, next we are going to bring in a cone. So go ahead and bring in a cone. And this time we are going to play with the rotate tool, okay? So I'm going to move this cone over here, and then I am going to hit hotkey E. Or right over here, you have this little rotation direction. Hotkey E lets you rotate things. Again, if I'm orbiting around the scene right now, so I'm holding down Alt and left mouse button, right? And that lets you rotate around your scene. Alt and right mouse button lets you zoom in and out, and Alt and middle mouse button lets you pan around your scene. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and rotate this really quick. If I want to just rotate it in this one direction, I'm going to grab one of those inside circles, right? But if I want to rotate it freely in any direction, I'm going to grab this outside circle. Right now, I just want to rotate it kind of just in a fun way. I think I'm happy with that though. Okay, that looks pretty good. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and bring in another cube. This time I am going to move this one over here, and let's scale it up a little bit. So scaling this one up. All right, that looks kind of fun. Okay, I want to show you guys something really quick. So the other thing that happens when you edit either where the position is of an object or the scaling or the rotation, you can see this in another place. So if I come over here, I've got my object selected. I come over here into P cube 2. Okay, this is my second cube that I brought into the scene. That's why it comes in as P cube 2. I can change the translation. That is the positioning of my object. So I'm happy with where it's positioned, but I can also change the scaling. Okay, so let's say I just want this object to be twice the size of a normal cube. I can enter in 2 in all of these values right here, and it'll go back to being a cube, and it's twice the size as a regular cube comes in. Okay, you can use this to scale in one direction in a more controlled way, which is really nice. So I just scaled up my Y direction to 4. I think I'm happy with that, so I'm going to go ahead and leave it there. The other thing you can see is when you're rotating things, if I go back to my cone really quick, let's see, oops, sorry, I just hit wireframe display. Let me switch this back to shaded view. Wireframe mode is hotkey 4, shaded is hotkey 5, so I'm going to keep this on hotkey 4. And then the other thing I just clicked on is 1, 2, and 3 on your keyboard. Those will show you what happens if your object is smooth. Okay, so 1 is the normal mode, but if you click on 2, you kind of see this like transition mode of what will happen if you smooth your object. 3 is your object entirely smooth. Most of the time we're going to be using 1, but occasionally it makes sense to use 3. All right, so again, going back to this rotation tool, hotkey E, I can see my cone over here, my attribute editor has lots of different rotation directions. Let's just set these back to 0. Okay, so that looks like how my cone came in. Let's say I just want to rotate my cone 90 degrees in this direction. If I click on the rotation right in here, I can see which direction that is over my attribute editor. So if you look at your attribute editor, take a look at which position is changing right now. So it looks like it's that one. I like that, so I'm going to go ahead and change that to 90 degrees. Okay, and as you can see, I've rotated my cone 90 degrees in that direction. So you can use this. This is a great way if you want to create a right angle, if you want more controlled rotations, that sort of thing. So it's kind of nice for that. But again, we can just have this rotated however we want for this first scene. Okay, the last shape I'm going to bring in is a cylinder. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the cylinder. And now I want you guys to take a look. I'm hitting Q, hotkey Q. That sets you back to selection mode so you don't accidentally mess with your object at all. I want you guys to take a look at the attribute editor again. So if I come over here, obviously I can change the transformation attributes of my cylinder, but the other thing you can change if you click on this P cylinder shape is you can change, let's see, oh sorry, if you click on polycylinder, you can change the number of subdivisions, okay? So this came in divided with 20 subdivisions. So if I change that, let's go ahead and change it to 6. As you can see, now it looks more like a hexagonal prism, right? So you can change the number of subdivisions on things. You can add subdivisions on cubes. So for this cube, I could come over here, polycube, I could add a subdivision on every direction. And as you can see, now I have extra topology, right? So for this hexagonal prism, this cylinder though, I want to make the subdivision axis 6 and then the number of caps 2. Okay, and that's going to add subdivisions in my cap, like on the cap of my hexagon. So I want to make that 2. And now I want you guys to go ahead and change your hexagonal prism to only have 4-sided polygons. Okay, so we're going to get rid of those triangles. As you can see, they're on the top and the bottom. So I'm going to introduce you guys to a menu that you'll use quite often, which is the right-click menu. So if you are selected on an object and you hold down right-click, this menu will pop up. This lets you change the selection mode. There's also additional things that we can do in this menu. But for now, we're going to go ahead and change the selection mode to edge selection mode. Okay, so I have to have an object selected before I can do that, but then I'm holding down right-click on my mouse and I'm changing this to edge selection mode. Okay, now I can click in here and click on edges of my object and go ahead and delete them. So I'm going to delete that one, and that one. And now, as you can see, I've changed these faces in my object to be 4-sided polygons, right? 1, 2, 3, 4 sides. So I want to do the same thing on the bottom. So I'm going to go ahead and go right-click menu, edge selection, and I'm going to delete some more edges. Okay, so again, now I only have 4-sided polygons. Perfect. All right. Okay, that looks really good. All right, the last thing I want to show you guys really quick is how to change the color of objects in your scene. So we are going to get more into adding materials to objects in our scene later, but for now I just want to show you guys how to affect the color. So if you, let's change this back, right-click menu, back to object mode, okay? If you click on an object and you right-click menu, you can go down here to the bottom and you can choose assign new material. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and assign a new material. Click on that. And, oops. Okay, I am going to go ahead and grab a new material right here at the bottom. Okay. So I'm assigning a new material. Sorry, I'm having some issues with my mouse right now. And new material. Perfect. Okay, so you get this little pop-up. And we have lots of different options here. Lambert, that's kind of a standard matte material. Blinn is going to be kind of a glossier material. And then Phong and Phong-E, those are a lot shinier. So I'm going to start with Lambert for this one. Click on Lambert. And then it should pop up right away in your attribute editor. If it didn't for you, you can right-click menu, go down to Material Attributes, and then it'll pop up for you. But I'm going to call this one, naming your materials can be really helpful because then you can identify them later. I'm actually going to rename it after I change the color. So I'm going to change the color just by double-clicking into here, and I'm going to pick like a pink. You can pick whatever color you want. But yeah, make sure after you change the color, okay, that you click outside of it. Yep, that looks good. And I'm just going to call this pink, okay, as my material. Okay, that looks good. So now I'm going to go ahead and assign a new material again. I'm going to assign a new material to every single one of these objects. And I just want you guys to play around with what the different materials look like. So here's a blend. I'm going to choose like a light blue for this one. Kind of like that. Blends are a little bit shinier. You can see in the sample right here what that kind of looks like. But yeah, that looks good. And I'm going to call this one light blue. Okay, so I'm going to go in and assign a couple different materials. Fong, let's try that one. We're going to make this one kind of like a deeper red material. Okay, looks good. And as you can see, just kind of the colors are showing up right now. If I hit hotkey 6, that shows you what those materials look like on your objects. Hotkey 5 is just that shaded display. Hotkey 4 is wireframe again. So again, this shows us our topology. The other thing that's really nice that you can do is if you hit hotkey 5, right over here at the top of your viewport, there's wireframe on shaded. So if you click on that, you can see that wireframe on top of your shaded view. That's really helpful sometimes. So I like to have that on. You can always click it off right there again though. All right, let's add a couple new materials. And again, I just want you guys to just pick a different color for each of these. And then the other thing you can do is you can assign an existing material. So if I go here to assign existing material, I can assign one of those materials that I named before. So if, let's say I want this one to be purple also, I can click on that purple material and it's going to be exactly the same. And then if I come in here to my material attributes and I make changes, like let's say I want a brighter purple or a deeper purple, it's going to make changes to both of those objects because the material is assigned to both of them. So just keep that in mind. That's why I'm going and assigning a new material each time when I'm changing the color, because otherwise it would change the color for the previous materials as well. All right, I'll just do a green this time. Perfect. Light green. Okay, so I'm happy with that. After you get to this point, go ahead and save your scene. So we're going to come up here to File, Save Scene As, and then make sure your path is correct. So for you guys, it should be that H drive path, right? H should say something like H. If you need to, you can go to My Computer, click onto your H drive, go back into 3D Graphics, Autodesk Projects, make sure you're saving into that file, yeah? And then we can go ahead and call this Maya Lab 1. But yeah, once you've saved it, go ahead and upload it into Canvas. And that's it for this lab. Thanks, guys.